Hello everyone. I am Komal Mehta, teaching as an assistant professor in computer science department at St. Andrews Institute of Technology and Management, Gurgaon. Today in the series of web development course, we will cover about the CSSP, that means cascading style sheet positioning. Now, as I discussed in the previous videos about the HTML and the CSS, basically CSS helps in improvising the web pages and the appearance of the web page with the help of some particular scripting tags or some features of the HTML as well. So basically we can say CSS helps us to positioning our HTML elements so that we can the web page we can say look like that much impressive. So you can specify whether you want the element position relative to the natural position in page or absolute based on the parent element. Let's discuss this one first. That CSS can be of CSS padding as well as margin can be of the top, right, left, and the bottom. But there is difference between the padding and the margin. What's the basic difference between these one is mentioning over here. Here the border, outside border and the inside border within the content. The gapping between or the spacing between these border is called as a margin. And the content and the border, the spacing between these both is representing as a padding. So here you can see this is the padding list and this is the margining list. So margin left, margin top, right, and a bottom, these all varies in comparison of the padding left, padding top, padding right, padding bottom. So these are the difference between the both. What is the difference between padding and a margin? So the concept I hope is clear to you that these both concepts are different. Whenever we will focus on the content we will writing and the border between that, then that is representing by the padding, but the border with the outside word is representing as the margin. So the positioning in a CSS can varies according to the choice we will use. It can be of static, it can be of relative, absolute, fixed, sticky, and inherent. In static one, the position will be stick to the normal page. That is the by default flow. That means we will focus over here is the fixed position. But in relative, we will compare with the particular reference we will use. With the help of that reference, we will compare the actual value. In absolute, the element will be removed, we can say, from the flow of document, and other element behave as if it is not even there. That means does not affect on any of that image or any of that content whenever the element or a tag we can say will be deleted. Next is a fixed one. In fixed one, if element is removed, it does not affect any of the position on the that behaves almost same in comparison of the fixed one. In the sticky one, the element is treated like relative value until the scroll location of the viewport reaches to the specified threshold. That means whenever we are doing any task, then there is some limit for that particular task. We will adjust at that threshold point, but once the threshold will be there, we can't stick over here. So sticky means we will stick to that particular position till the threshold reaches. Once that will be reached, the position will be varies or move. Inherit means the position of a value can't cascade, so that it can be used to specifically force it to and inherit the position of the value from its parents. That means with the help of parents we can switching from the position. If parents will value varies, then the children value also varies. So that completely depend on the positioning. So after that, what actually CSSP works? Basically, if we want to specify whether we want to the element, the position to be relative to the natural position or absolute one or inherent one. So that will vary according to the choice of the client, that page who will create it. Now we will focus over here is relative positioning with the help of example. The relative positioning changes the position of the HTML element relative to where it is normally appears. That means where it is actually appears right now is the current position will be focused, and on the basis of current position, the position of that particular CSSP will be varies. that can be of left, right, top and bottom. If we will using the left, then we have to use move left. If we want to move right, then use the tag move right. In same way, up and down will be there. But one thing over focus here is we can use bottom and right as well as in same way of top and left. So these both are similar. These are not different one. You may not confuse about the bottom or a down one. So these both are similar to that each other. So we can say relative positioning, changing the position of HTML where it normally appears. So here it is left is equal to 20. It means 20 pixels to the left position. We can use top and left along the position property to move the HTML element anywhere in the HTML document, right? So this is the relative one. Here the one example over here about the relative one is whenever we will start any HTML page, the content is displaying in the body tag. So in body tag, div tag helps in the relative positioning. Now the styling we will use over here is the relative position. So position is the attribute property that have a value relative. But how much we want to move? Left is equal to 80 pixel and top is equal to 2 pixel. And background color is of yellow. So this positioning left and top will giving the position and of background color of yellow. Once that will be done, div tag is closed. Div tag is basically used in the relative positioning only. After that, body tag is closed. Next is the absolute positioning. In absolute positioning, an element with the position is equal to absolute is positioned at specified coordinate relative to our screen from top left corner. That means we will focus from this particular position to that particular position. That means comparing from one position to another one. We can use two values top left along with the position property to move the HTML element anywhere in the document. That means top left, bottom right. These both are similar as that of previous one. That means relative one. In fixed positioning, whenever we will focus on a fixed positioning, that means the coordinate will not vary according to the position. It is also fixed to the position of element at a particular spot on the web pages regardless of the scrolling. That means whenever we will scroll, the content will not move. That is fixed on that particular coordinate. So the specified coordinate will be relative to the browser window. We can use two values over here, that is top left along the position property to move from HTML element in the document. In same scenario, left, right, top, bottom will be works over here. CSS gives us the opportunity to creating layer of the various division. CSS layers refers to applying the J-index property to the element that overlap with each other. Now, what's the J-index property? It is basically used to alonging the position property to create effects of the layer. That means whenever we want to create multiple layers in a web page, then that will be done with the help of J indexing. We can specify which element should come on the top and which element should come on the bottom, because it may consist a hierarchy. Whenever we want to create multiple elements and both and each element have a multiple values, so how can we manage all these values and the properties? That will be managed by the layering concept. So layering concept basically differentiate each layer with the values, with their values, we can say. So with these layers will be created with the help of J index property that help us to create more complex web page layout following. That means the we can say over here is, for example, let us suppose there is one notebook. In one notebook there are multiple pages, but one page consists multiple web pages. Is it? No, it's not appropriate. In a web page, whenever we will create, or in a notebook, we can say first page must be the index one, so that we can easily identify the rest of the topics from that particular notebook. So we must have to maintain some hierarchy on the basis of indexing, right? Whenever we will create that indexing, we will focus on the layers. So each layer must be on appropriate position. It must not be available in a random pattern, because there must be a hierarchy or there must be a layers. In similar manner we will say in a web page, whenever we will create multiple pages for a website, then a first page, that is a home page must contain all the links or a tabular format indexing, so that uh, client can easily identify what the actual content in this particular website, and is it beneficial to move further or not, because with the help of indexing that will be shortlisted or selected. So these index helps us to identify whether that is beneficial or not, and that must be in same sequence as that of indexing mentioned. So these layers will be done with the help of J indexing. To modify the visibility of our element, add the visibility property to the CSS selectors with one of the following value. This can be that whether you want to show everyone, whether you want to hide anyone, any content from anyone, whether it is inherit from one property to another property. So, so these are the values that we can focus about the visibility criteria. I'm sorry for that. Firstly, hidden. This option hides a layer from displaying when page is initially open in the browser. That means whenever we will open a web page in a browser, then everything will be not disclosed to the client. That some portion will be hidden, that the client want to show, or sorry, server want to show or not. So that depends on the browser window. Next is a inherit one. This option causes any layer to inherit the visibility of the parent element. If parent does not exist, the layer will be visible. When visibility is unspecified, inherit is by default attribute. Whenever there is a feature that is called inherit, that means the child must contain some properties of the parent, and that properties will be affected to child also. So this option is basically on the layer to inherit the visibility of the parent layer. That means whether the parent is visible or not. If parent does not exist, the layer will be visible or not, because if my parents is not showing anything, then why I am disclosing to you anything, right? So this is the property that is called an inherit one, that parents does not exist, then layer will be visible or not. When the visibility is unspecified, that is the by default feature also. Next is a visible one. In visible one, choosing the option to force the layer to be visible regardless of any parent layer visibility setting when page first open in a browser window. That means whenever we will opening any website, then the first page that is displaying, that must be in the visible format, that can't be hidden format, because in initial level, whenever we will start or open a first page, then that window will be definitely showing something, some content. So that completely depend on a client, that sorry sir, on server, that what actually content they want to hide, what actually they content to visible or inherit some properties. So that is depending upon the server end, that server want to show something or not, or want to hide something. So this is all about the CSS positioning, about how can we create a CSS, what are the basic needs of a CSS. For the enhancement of the CSS or a web page, we can say we need this one, because this creates some styling effects, and that styling is different from the web pages in HTML tags. So that also create a dynamic web pages. Whenever we want to update anything, then that will be updated dynamically. We need not to mention everything in an HTML page. We can also link a single script with the multiple web pages. So that makes the more impressive also. The inconsistency will be never maintained, because consistency is also there because of the updation with the database. Because whenever we will modify anything in a scripting or a styling sheet, then that will reflecting to the database. So consistency is maintaining, and easy to maintain also. We can say in CSS margining and padding concept, and some extra features are there, so that they seems more impressive also. Whenever we will focus on the layering point of view, then that layering will be done with the help of J indexing, that helps in creating multiple layers or a multiple hierarchy. Or next thing is about the positioning, that whether the absolute one, relative one, inherit one, fixed one, so and the sticky one, so that completely depend on the client that who want to create a website, that what effect they want to show in their particular website. Each and every effect have their own importance. So how many effects to make that particular web page that much impressive is done with the help of css. Also about the positioning point of view, css focus on the position where the actual content is displaying. How can we will controlling all these, what content we want to show to users, or what we want to hide, what are not necessary, or how many properties we can inherit from the previous parent. And the managing of the whole website is done with the help of styling sheet that makes is that make it that much impressive. So this is all about css. I hope this is clear to all of you. Thank you.